an institution across 18 member countries of the Asian Civil Engineering Coordinating Council (ACEC). Today's session focuses on an increasingly important challenge beyond single hazards, building resilient infrastructures for cascading and compound risk. Many of you may be curious about Asian Civil Engineering Coordinating Council, commonly known as ACEC. To provide us with a brief overview of ACEC and its contribution to regional engineering cooperation, it is my pleasure to invite Engineer Suraj Gautam, co-chair of TC39, to come forward and express his views. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mandira, sir. Distinguished guest, keynote speaker, moderator, and our panelists, and especially people joining across different time zones. I would like to first welcome you here on behalf of the Asian Civil Engineering Coordinating Council. We call it ACEC. So ACEC is it's a network which has more than 18 member economies, which was established in the year 1999. And since then, we have been exchanging, promoting, and then sharing our knowledges across the regions. So back in 1999, American Society of Civil Engineers, CICAG, JSCE, KSCE, and PIC initiated this network, and Nepal joined this network in the year 2015. And since then, we have been participating very actively in every forum and in every events that we have been doing. And it gives me pleasure that we recently completed our 50th executive committee meeting at Kathmandu in April 2025, and more than 50 international delegates participated during that event. So today, we are here on behalf of the technical committee of ACEC. The technical committee, one is TC39, that deals majorly with the cascading and compounding risk assessment for the resilient engineering, whereas the technical committee 40, TC40, is the committee that deals more regarding the hydropower innovations and knowledge exchange. So in the history of ACEC, these two technical committees are the first technical committees that has been initiated by Nepal Engineers Association, and I feel proud to be a part of it, and I look forward to your active participation in the coming days as well. So with this technical committee, today we are going to have a very vibrant discussion regarding the different challenges that our region is facing. So these kind of challenges is not just pertinent across Nepal, but if you see some of the events from the past, I would like to remember maybe the Sethi floods, or maybe the 2021 Melamchi flood, where we had significant damages in the Melamchi water supply as well. And then also these days we are witnessing cloudburst events, specifically the cloudburst event from 2024 in Nepal, and also the Dharali cloudburst from India, which swept away entire village in just a matter of like 10 seconds. So these kind of events are, growing. We are seeing this kind of events on a very regular basis. And the technical committee 40, which is led by Engineer Subhas Chandra Baral sir. So especially in our region, the hydropower projects are being built, and that region is extremely exposed to such kind of cascading risk. So today in this session, we'll be talking more onto that. And I won't take much of a time, but I would also like to highlight that the today's session will also be streamed in our official channel, ACEC channel as well, and then we'll be sharing among all the engineering networks as well. So I wish we'll be having a very lively discussions, and looking forward to your interactive discussions as well. And before we move into our technical session, we have a special message from our Secretary General of the Asian Civil Engineering Coordinating Council. So may I request our technical team to please play the message from our Secretary General, and then we'll be moving towards our session. And then our technical committee is continuing its interesting work as well. In the month of August 2026, we are hosting yet another sharing from Indonesia and Nepal, and that event will be hosted in Indonesia. And then in October 2026, we will also be inviting more than 10-15 experts from the international community in Taiwan that will also be hosted in 2026 October. So I look forward to welcoming you all to participate in our events on a regular basis, and we hope this technical committee will definitely help us in strengthening our understanding towards this kind of risk. So thank you. With this, I would like to now request our technical team to please play the video, and then I would like to again pass back to my Yamendra sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Dear members and leaders of Nepal Engineers Association, greetings on your 64th Engineers Day celebration from the Asian Civil Engineering Coordinating Council, ACECC. This is Uday Singh, the Secretary General of ACECC from San Francisco, California. ACECC, with its 18 member societies from 18 economies, is focused on promoting collaborative work towards sustainable development of infrastructure within the Asian region. NEA is an important member of ACECC, participating in the acquisition and transfer of civil engineering knowledge in this area. NEA is leading 2 ACECC technical committees, TC39 on Cascading and Compound Risk Assessment for Resilient Engineering, and TC40 on hydropower, knowledge, and innovative network. They are important areas for sustainable development for infrastructure. I'm glad to know that TC39 and TC40 are hosting a technical session during the Engineers Day celebration. The theme of your Engineers Day celebration this year, Young Minds and Engineering Shaping Better Nepal, resonates with one of ACECC's objectives and activities. ACECC's Future Leaders Forum, comprised of the younger generation of engineers, participates in several activities of ACECC. NEA has been a leader of the Future Leaders Forum. Best wishes to all of you in Nepal Engineers Association, and especially to the next generation of engineers, as well as to ACECC's TC39 and TC40 on the 64th Engineers Day celebration in Kathmandu. I look forward to continuing to work with you on promoting and advancing our profession and improving the quality of life through sustainable development. I also hope to see some of you at ACECC's next Executive Committee meeting and technical seminar in Taiwan in October this year. Thank you and best wishes for a successful Engineers Day.
Thank you very much. We sincerely appreciate the warm wishes and encouraging messages from the Secretary General of ACECC. Now we would like to move towards the technical session. So at first I would like to introduce our expert keynote speaker, sir. Professor Vishnu Pandey, sir. At first, I will be introducing him. He is currently working as the at IOE-TU and Executive Director of the Center for International Relations (CIR). His expertise is in hydrology, water resources, and climate adaptation. His main recognition is 2018 NAST Young Scientist Award recipient. We are truly honored to have such a distinguished scholar and internationally recognized expert with us today. Without further delay, I respectfully invite Professor Vishnu Pandey, sir, to deliver the keynote address. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's my great pleasure to be here. What happened? Can you change this one, please? Thank you so much. It's my great honor to be here today to share some of the thoughts related to the topics about resilient infrastructure for cascading and compound risks, translating the concept to reality. My job is simple: to set the context for discussion. There are well-known panelists who will deep dive further in terms of how to achieve it. I'll be talking on a couple of topics. emerging risk context, engineering implications. I will be talking about two cases where we can see the cascading and the compound risk. And resilient infrastructure, we talk a lot about this, but what exactly does it mean? What are key attributes of this one? Then some priority actions for resilient infrastructure. We have heard a lot and experienced a lot about the extreme rainfall events and associated water disaster in the recent years. If we talk about last 5 years, starting from the Melamsi debris flow in 2021, there are many cases listed here. Many of the time we see them as a kind of extreme rainfall, but there are many other things associated with that. They are not a single event. They are compounded sometimes parallelly with the other events, or sometimes they are triggering other events. By that means they are cascading the impacts across the sector. That dimension, though discussed several times in the recent years, but that hasn't been the part of discussion for the last many years. Other important thing is sometimes we see the many extreme events like this, we easily attribute to climate change, but that may not be the cases. If we try to see all these events here, only in a couple of cases there is a clear link to climate change. We have the data to support that, but in many instances we don't have the data to attribute to climate change. So we have to be very, very careful on attributing all the extreme events to the climate change. That's the message I would like to highlight here. Second thing is there are the research and some documentation that shows that a person born after 2020 experienced threefold more climate-related risks than a person born in 1960. It means that the risks we have experienced so far, or hazard we have experienced so far, will intensify further in the future. So we need to get prepared for that to make our society resilient, to make our infrastructure resilient, to make our ecosystem resilient. So in terms of compound and cascading and compound nature of the hazards and associated risks, I would like to refer a paper published in 2021. We simplify the ways to understand this cascading and compound hazards and associated risks. We can see that there could be many activities as a primary trigger, for example, earthquake, avalanche, landslide, or something else. And when that particular trigger interacts with some other kind of hazards, then the nature of that might get compounded, which means that the damage potential will increase. And when that is translated to different sectors, these risks are cascaded across the sectors. We will see an example later on. Further, the sectors could be many, like agriculture or human settlements or energy or transportation or anything else. Secondly, the nature of the impact or nature of risks may vary with the scale from local to regional to national. All kind of risks or cascading and compound nature of disaster may not impact to all these scales. Thirdly, there are the time frame within up to which this may impact. Some of the activities or events may impact up to week. Some may impact up to month, and sometimes some even up to years. We have seen a couple of road sections in Nepal which has been damaged by 2024 extreme events, but they haven't been able to operate across the years even now. Again, this nature of the trigger that I mentioned may vary depending upon location in a river system. In the very upstream, glacial lake outburst flood, glacial melting and associated flood could be the trigger point. If we come a bit in the downstream, it may be landslide and associated damming could be a trigger. And when we go further to the downstream, maybe when we come to the flat area, sediment deposition could be a key. But they will not limit to the particular hazard or particular risk only. They will interact normally with the other kind of hazards, and they increase their damage potential, compound the risks, and their impacts are cascaded across the sector. That's the key thing, and we don't have the key answer yet how to address that, because this is a topic that is under intense research even today. The type or nature of hazard could be any, like flash flood or heat waves or maybe intense storm or even something else. When they interact with the exposure, the risks may vary depending upon the damage potential or the vulnerability of the exposure at which is or the limited exposure. And the risks also, when there is a cascading or compound nature of the events, multiple events come under together, then again the risks will multiply, maybe multiply by one-fold or lesser than one-fold or even multiple folds. That's how this kind of cascading and compounding nature of the multiple hazards, they are interacting each other, will amplify the risks. If we try to group together the emerging risks to the engineering infrastructure, perhaps we can categorize under 6 categories. This may not be an exhaustive list. This is my own framing in terms of grouping the varieties of risks to the water infrastructure, to the engineering infrastructure. One is aging of the infrastructure. Some of the infrastructure we built maybe some 40, 50, or even 60 years ago. They need a massive maintenance now. If, for example, in Japan, they built after World War II, they invest significantly in large-scale infrastructure. There was good, running well for the last 30, 40, 50 years. But now they are feeling a massive, they need a massive investment for replacing or maintaining it. That has been a burden to their economy. Similar case may be experienced by us also in the due courses. Environment and social risks, demographic shift and urbanization, climate change and weather extremes, and also non-stationary nature of the hazard. For example, historical trends may not follow in the same trend we had in the past in the future. So it means the nature of the hazards or nature of the time series data is not stationary anymore. So if we fail to consider that in our analysis and the design, our infrastructure will not be resilient enough. Cascading and compounding risks, and one more important thing is we rely a lot on technology. So technological shift and associated cyber security risks are another dimension of the emerging risks that our infrastructure will be facing now and will continue facing in future. So if we try to link that to the engineering implication, for example, aging infrastructure, they reduce the service life, increase the maintenance requirement, and sometimes even sudden failure of the infrastructure can be experienced when we are using the service of the infrastructure. Environmental and social risks, increasing scrutiny regarding sustainability and social aspects, sometimes may risk even the project's approval if that is funded by multi-dimensional donors, or maybe sometimes even they may risk the completion also. We need to consider environmental consideration, social consideration, but over-emphasis on those things sometimes even risks the approval of the project and completion also. There need to be a balance, proper balance. It may sometimes cause project delay, cost overrun, reduced public trust, and even the legal disputes also. Demographic shift and urbanization, if we try to link to engineering implication, urban flooding, we have experienced a lot in recent years. Reduced infrastructure performance, increased exposure of people and assets, and of course economic loss are some of the implications to the engineering infrastructure and associated service and connection to the economy. If we try to see to the climate change and weather extremes, overtoppling and failure of the infrastructures, bridge scour and foundation instability, we have seen such cases many in the recent years. Reduced reliability of the service, if it will be malfunction for many days or even weeks, the reliability of the service will get affected. Increased landslide activities and thermal stress in building and power systems is another dimensions which is related to weather extremes and climate change. Cascading and compounding nature, some of the examples here is heavy rainfall may induce the landslide and it may cause the road blockage as an example. Flood may cause power outage and it may result in communication failure. Similarly, earthquake, dam damage, downstream flooding may relate to impact of infrastructure. That's the way our nature of compounding and compound risks and cascading risks will be translated to infrastructure. There could be many such examples. And technological shift and cyber security, the implication to engineering infrastructures are like shift towards AI and smart system like SCADA systems, smart grid, traffic management system, dam operating system, etc. If there is a risk of data manipulation by the hackers, service disruption, and even sometimes if it is manipulated by someone else, incorrect operation decision could happen. So we have to be very, very careful and double checking system to make sure whatever command we are providing, whatever decision we are making based on the automatic system is correct. So we need to go to the automated system, but we need to have a backup plan to make sure whatever we are doing in the right way. There are always increased risks of cybersecurity. So, for example, if we take a Great East Japan earthquake of 2011, it was a cascading infrastructure failure. First, initial hazard was magnitude 9 earthquake, then a secondary hazard was tsunami. The series of events was earthquake followed by tsunami, power system failure, power station failure, Fukushima nuclear accident, electricity shortage, industry shutdown, supply chain disruption. The supply chain is the global supply chain because some of the inputs or some of the parts are supplied by Japan across the globe, and finally economic losses worldwide. We can see that to what extent the maybe one activity, one trigger may have implications across the sector, not only to a country, even across the globe. Infrastructure, varieties of infrastructure were affected, like nuclear power plant, roads, railway, airports, telecommunication system, hospital, and so on. The cascading effect here is failure to one infrastructure, like power system, propagated into manufacturing, transportation, healthcare, international supply chains, and so on. If we take another example, after a decade in Balamchi debris flow in 2011 related to 2021 related to Nepal, it was cascading risks to water supply infrastructure. We know that June 2021 event and associated August 2021 event, intense rainfall and associated things. It started with the extreme rainfall, the landslide, deep boulder and debris flow, rigs blockade, river blockade, flash flood, destruction of intake structure, Kathmandu water supply interruption, and economic losses and even public health risks were experienced at that time. Various types of infrastructure were damaged, including Balamchi water supply project, access road, bridge, and so on. One hazard like rainfall produced a chain of failure across the multiple sectors. Now, after looking all these things, then the question comes, what exactly the resilient infrastructure is? Why we need resilient infrastructure? We understand there are varieties of way our infrastructure can be affected by not only a single trigger, but an associated compound of the triggering and associated cascading impacts. Then key attributes is the functional character. If we talk from the functional characteristics, then it should be able to anticipate potential risks, absorb damage, incorporate lesson learned. It means there should be a kind of feedback system, restore functionality as minimum within as minimum time as possible, transform or improve the system even better than before it was hit by a disaster. Then what are the key attributes? These are some of the attributes, but if we try to see on the various aspects of the resilience, we engineers normally think that, okay, if there are increased risks due to climate change or other drivers, we need to design better. That's what we normally think. But the resiliency is beyond, even much beyond than designing better the infrastructure. So we can see varieties of the ways that can be linked to the resilience. We technical people normally think technical resilience is enough, but there are many other things which need to be considered in resilience, like economic resilience, environmental resilience, social resilience, and even institutional resilience. For example, technical resilience, many of us understand, like structural integrity, reliability, redundancy in its flexible design system, and engineering performance, ensuring engineering performance. But they should be able to finance adequately to absorb, to fund the repairs. They should be able to absorb the financial losses and even the sustain the operation. Then it becomes economic resiliency. Environmental resiliency is integration with the nature-based solutions that support infrastructure and ecosystem. If our system is integrated in that way, then we consider this as economic, environmental resilience. Social resilience, there should be a public acceptance. Even if we make a very high-tech system, it is not accepted by public, there is no meaning to that one. And equitable access by all the sectors of the society and stakeholders' ownership. So these are the key things for social resilience. And finally, institutional resilience is there should be a strong regulations, inter-agency coordination, effective governance, and emergency planning. Therefore, only building infrastructure or better or maybe stronger infrastructure is not enough for resiliency of infrastructure. There should be economic, environmental, social, and institutional resilience too, to ensure our infrastructure system are resilient enough. Then what are the pathways for that one? Some of the priority actions for resilient infrastructure, I try to group them in the 3 areas. One is better understanding of the risks. If I calculate risks in one way, the other colleague calculated in another way, then there will be a confusion, right? So in that way, nobody will trust us. So improved risk assessment and early warning is the one area we need interventions. That is addressing data and modeling gaps. Risk communication, interconnected system risk assessment, forecasting, and early warning are the key things for identifying risks and communicating them properly. And digital resilience means cyber security protocols, backup system, warning system. If there are some risks, they should be able to provide warning to all the concerns. So all these are some of the areas which help us to improve the risks and the associated early warnings. Second area is risk informed design. This we people mostly focus on here. Probabilistic and adaptive design approaches, climate proof design standard. We talk a lot on this. Risk informed planning and nature based solution like water management and green infrastructure. These are the areas to improve the design, engineering dimension related to reducing the risks or enhancing resilience of our infrastructure. Finally, there should be governance, like strengthening infrastructure governance is another dimension as a priority action, where we can focus on infrastructure planning and asset management, like inventory of the assets, structural health monitoring, regular inspection, predictive maintenance, and several other things. And regular and educated financing are the key for that one. They can be considered as a part of governance. Similarly, response mechanism, risk-informed decision design codes, business continuity after the disaster hits our infrastructure. And then third thing is data sharing and coordination among the varieties of stakeholders like engineers, policymakers, academia, communities, private sectors. All these things, if we can integrate together, we believe that we can have resilient infrastructure in place. So these are the areas, and the panel discussion from now onwards, I believe will deep dive further into how to translate these priority areas into reality. With this, I conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vishnu Pandey, sir, for your insightful and thought-provoking keynote presentation. Your valuable perspective on cascading and compound risks have provided an excellent foundation for the panel discussion that follows. Now, I would like to move towards the panel discussion. At first, I would like to introduce our moderator, sir, Dr. Basanta Adhikari, sir. I would like to request him to sit on the dais as well. Dr. Basanta Adhikari is a renowned multi-hazard risk assessment expert with over 2 decades of experience in disaster risk reduction and resilience across Himalayas. He serves as the director of the Center for Disaster Studies, IOE, Tribhuvan University, and as a senior research fellow at the University of Melbourne. He also serves as the president of Disaster Preparedness Network, Nepal, as well as member secretary for National Platform for Disaster Risk Reduction, NPDRR. Now I would like to move on to welcome the panelists. At first, I would like to welcome Ms. Dr. Divas Bahadur Basnyat, sir, water, and I would like to request him to come on the dais as well. Kindly clap. He is the Water and Climate Program Lead, Nepal Development Research Institute. He leads the Water and Climate Program at Nepal Development Research Institute, NDRI. He has 35 plus years of consulting, teaching, and years and research experience on water resource system analysis, disaster risk management, and climate change adaptation in several countries across Asia and Africa. He was awarded the Distinguished AIT Alumni Award in 2019 and the Best Paper Award 2015 by International Center for Climate Hazard and Risk Assessment, Japan. Now I would like to welcome Dr. Mandira Singh Shrestha, ma'am. Dr. Mandira Singh Shrestha is a highly experienced disaster risk reduction, climate service, and water resource specialist. She is currently the board of director of Water Center 21 PAHAL and had worked with the International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, ACECC, for over 2 decades. Now I would like to welcome panelist number 3, Dr. Sanjaya Devkota, sir, Managing Director of Feed Private Limited. I would also like to welcome him on the stage as well. He is the Managing Director of Feed Private Limited, civil engineer by training. Dr. Devkota has over 20 years of experience in conventional engineering and frontier technologies for multi-hazard risk assessment, modeling climate change impacts, design of mitigation measures, and conservation. He has been working with national and international development agencies such as the government of Nepal, UNDP, IUCN, Helvetas, UNEP, and Oxfam, among others. Now I would like to hand over this session to our moderator, Basanta Adhikari, sir, and you can go with the panel discussion. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Emendraji, for this wonderful introduction and inviting colleagues. I'm very happy to be with a very esteemed colleague today here with our participant. Thank you, Professor Pandey, for highlighting these very important issues that we are dealing with. Though this area is still evolving because we are moving from multiple hazards to multi-hazard, or from single hazard to multi-hazards interaction, where we have seen already numerous examples starting from Pakistan to Bhutan to Myanmar, or in other part of areas, for example, in Alps, Appalachian Mountain, or Ural Mountain. Wherever you go, you see such kind of interaction. And in this changing new landscape, what we call new old with climate change, where we are observing extreme events, and then the number of events are actually increasing, and then the effect is more compounding, especially in the Himalayan region, in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region, from source to sink, from the Himalayan landscape where we observe the glacial lake outburst flood to the flooding and inundation to the flatland. So this is the crux of this whole scenario, where we need to really deal with this changing environment for critical infrastructure resilience. So we engineering communities, we have to deal, we have to design, we have to consider the parameters while doing work, from designing to monitoring and evaluation. So this will be the center part of the discussion for today. And we have very experienced colleague here. So the pattern of this panel discussion is, first I will ask some of the guiding questions to our panelists, and then I'll open for a floor for 3-4 questions, very quick questions, and then followed by the answer, and then the final thoughts from the panelists, and I'll conclude from my program as a moderator. So I will start with Dr. Basnyat because you are working in this field for more than 3 decades, especially on water resources, flooding, critical infrastructure challenges. So if you see the whole landscape, especially in the Himalayan region, so these critical infrastructures, what we prepared already, what we built already, they are also experiencing or facing the challenges for sustainability. And in the meantime, we have to design our infrastructure for the future scenarios. For example, in some of the projects, people are complaining that we didn't consider the changing environment. So based on your experience, what kind of strategies or what kind of engineering practices or analysis should be there for our critical infrastructure development and the resilience in this part of the world?
Thank you very much, Dr. Basanta. It's a very relevant question. Many things have already been covered by Professor Vishnu, so I will not repeat that. But I would just like to highlight 1 or 2 things. First, we used to design for what we call known unknowns. So we use probability distribution functions, return functions. Now we have to design for unknown unknowns. So we don't know. The uncertainty is the key factor. So one method we should now use is stress testing. You test the system, the design of the project, for different types of uncertainties. Professor Vishnu already covered that. And plus, I would like to also highlight what we call the bottom-up approach. So you focus on what matters. So you first decide on your KPIs. What are you trying to look at? What is the risk you are trying to do? And finally, I would like to highlight 2 points. Now, the new paradigm is what we call resilience by design. Professor Vishnu already gave some attributes of what resilience is, okay? So resilience, basically, we move from a probabilistic approach to a resilience approach, a risk approach to a resilience approach. Resilience by design has three factors if you look at the literature. One is persistence. No matter what happens, you keep on running. The system keeps on working. The other is adaptability. No matter what happens, you have a shock, but the system adapts, the project adapts. You change, for example, the operational curve, operational rule. Then you also need to transform. Okay, sometimes when you are in a different regime, the future you don't know. So if you, the uncertainty, so you have to transform. And finally, I would like to end by saying the approach is, as Dr. Vishnu's question is, we have to follow adaptation pathways. So for example, if you are doing the hydropower design, first you focus on the immediate needs. Our climate is very variable. Our hydropower sector is at risk. So you manage the current risk, you close the adaptation gaps, you make it, and you build resilience for the unknown future. Second, in the midterm, you start doing climate smart planning. That means you have to design low cost, no regret options of your design, and which are robust under any uncertainty. When you say robust, the system works even if there are changes in the regime. And finally, you invest in information and learning to help make future decisions. I think before I close, and I will, since in the interest of time, you have to have a hybrid system. You have to also use nature-based solutions, EBA, ecosystem-based adaptation measures, plus engineering approach, a hybrid approach for mitigating and making your system resilient. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Basnyat. Very powerful messages, especially in the changing context. No regret policy should be there, and we can talk hours and hours on that. Thank you for highlighting, and which is actually set the question for Dr. Shrestha, because Dr. Shrestha is working for a long time, more than 3 decades in this region, working in EC mode or in different other part of the globe and organizations. So you have seen the bigger context, larger picture, where we talk about the risk assessment. That is really important for the early warning system development, especially for the hydrometeorological hazards, where our critical infrastructures are really interacting with this. So based on your experiences in working in this whole Hindu-Kush Himalayan region, so what are the challenges that we are facing and what needs to be done? How should we go forward to do the risk assessment process in the system of development of early warning and critical infrastructure resilience? Madam, please.
Thank you, Basantaji. Very good afternoon and namaste. I'm delighted to be here for this session, talking about cascading risks and disasters. So, Basantaji, as you question, you would like to know more about the overview in terms of the hazards, the cascading risks in the region, where we are at, and also some of the interventions and solutions, particularly related to early warning systems. So when we talk about cascading risks, and as well as the overall kind of a scenario, what we find often is that people talk about, first thing they will say is, there's no data. Yeah. So is that true? Do we not have adequate data? So that's the first question I would like to ask. But as engineers here, we all, realize that yes, there is data. There's data sitting on somebody's laptop, maybe across in another institution or across borders, right? So there are many different types of data. So for talking about data, you can talk about hydrological data, you can talk about meteorological data, geological data, satellite-based data, all different types of data that really feed into the different types of models which we might use for our forecasting, for our early warning systems to be more resilient, right? So now what do we do about this issue of data? Because this is the bigger question that always comes into play. One is that whatever data is shared, is available, is not adequately shared. I think we all realize that. Even our next door colleague does not want to share the data that is available. So how do we change this mindset of making the data more shareable? That's the first thing. The other question, the other point that I have is that whatever data is there, sometimes it comes in different formats. It comes in different standards. So it's whatever you get maybe is very difficult to use. And you might spend, hours and days and maybe months even trying to decipher what that data means. So, for the engineering design to be more resilient, we need to look into how to share these data sets and have these common kind of protocols, common kind of formats, as well as platforms for sharing of data and information. So this is one of the foremost things that I would like to highlight. Now, when you talk about the second point, that is going from data to early warning systems, then often, particularly in meteorological data for resilient infrastructure, particularly for, say, hydropower, we talk about, the Department of Hydrology and Meteorology, DHM in Nepal, here does not only say how much it is going to rain, it is also now slowly getting into a little bit of a step forward in terms of what is that amount of rain going to do? What kind of damage is it going to do? Where are those areas where it's likely to impact most? So that's kind of a way forward, a small kind of a change that we are seeing, which is very much needed overall. Yeah, not only small, but it should be overall in terms of when you're talking about early warning systems. It's not only about how much it's going to rain. You look at the forecast, you look at nice maps, but that's not adequate. You need to be having place-based information, and not only place-based information, but information that will tell you what is going to happen. Is the water going to reach my house, for instance? Is that hospital, which is very much needed, is going to be inundated? So those kinds of things are very much essential in terms of looking at moving from just forecasting to more impact-based forecasting. So that's kind of a change in the paradigm shift that we look at when we talk about more these cascading and compound events. Now, for instance, the hydropower sector, again, I will give you an example of, we had this recent floods that you all may recall in the Bhutekoshi just last year. Actually, it's been a year already, actually July 8th, I don't forget the date easily, 2025. So that is the time when we talked about, well, we did not get enough information from the upstream. Well, because what triggered it and where it kind of originated, it was in China. And then the floods came down in the middle of the night, early morning, 3 a.m. actually. So, and then there was a lot of devastation right at the border area and further downstream. So the inundation that took place, how far is it inundating? Those kinds of aspects are also crucial in terms of looking at the impacts. So going into the impacts. So that's where I would like to say that, the overall modeling and looking at different scenarios, for instance, this could probably be having looked at earlier. There were many hydropower projects that were affected during that disaster. Fortunately, there were lives lost. Actually, more than 20 people were killed. So those are some examples which tells us that we do require to look into more and holistic kind of a modeling approach, which would then support more inundation mapping in the downstream, looking at impacts from where it originates to all the way downstream, as Basanta ji mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shrestha. The country is moving from traditional approach forecasting to impact-based forecasting, which is really remarkable. If you look at the context in the South Asian region, the government of Nepal, especially DHM, is really doing great. So we are all supporting for them, or the government is really working to make more proactive things. So thank you for highlighting this, Dr. Shrestha. So Dr. Sanjaya Devkota, you are working this region for more than 30 decades and you have lots of international experiences. And you worked as a hydropower engineer, designer, planner, and now you are one of the scientists or engineers who are working really in the multi-hazard risk assessment process. So multi-hazard risk integration is not only the engineering part, there is governance. So governance starting from top to bottom and then bottom to top, what Dr. Basnyat was really highlighting. So how do you see this disaster governance or multi-hazard risk governance while designing or considering these pertinent issues for infrastructure resilience, and how the engineering community should address this new changing context in future? Please share your experiences.
Thank you, Dr. Basanta, for a very interesting and nice, relevant question in the current stage of our country. For me, the cascading risk of the multi-hazard risk assessment, what we call, it's not because of the lack of data. It's not because of lack of modeling. There are tools, yeah. Although there are some issues related on the data that we have maintained in the country, but the problem is governance. Why the problem in the governance? The governance system is so fragmented. You know, I would like to share some of our experience. Recently, we concluded one assignment with the UNDP. We are developing a state of environment of the whole one of the province and of the country. We travel all the way from the high mountain to the lowland as observation, part of the observation in the field. We also visited so many agencies, government organizations, for the sake of data. Nobody has the data in one thing, and the other thing is nobody is responsible to keep the data in proper way. Even they have the data, they don't want to share. And the concerned agencies are so fragmented, and you know the disaster, the hazards has no boundary. It never take the political boundaries. It's once these happen, it travel all the way. Its possibilities always there. So the boundary, the political boundary of the province or the municipality the hazard doesn't care about it. The fragmented, the authority has one of the big issue. That is what we observe. For example, DHM has concern about the meteorological data or hydrological data. And some other research institutes, say the universities, they are having their own way of doing research. And the development agencies like ECMOD or other research agencies, they are having their own protocol. And there very few coordination among them. We don't see the proper protocol of that the government has developed so far. And it's a big issue because the data we get from the DHM, they are also, sometimes we are concerned about the quality, the data quality. Who is going to check the data quality? Most of the time, the rainfall data we found from the DHM, it's really horrible. And there is no protocol how to process the data. Right? When the one organization do their own way of data processing, and I am doing my own way of data processing, there is no proper similar way of data processing established system yet. This is a big issue. This is a big concern. That means that there are agencies, there are data, everything is there, but the problem is the governance, the protocol that has to be developed from the government side. This is one issue. The other is the data that we have, the design system, as we are talking about the hydropower, and where most of the bigger hydropower are sitting in the flood-prone area, right? And then there is no, the design that we have, the hydropower design guideline, never talk about the multi-hazards. They are most basically depends on one single hazard. They talk about single hazard. For example, we talk about the flood, whether my headworks is sufficiently able to retain that 100 years return flood or not. That's what we are focusing on. But there is the design guideline never talk about the multiple hazards, the likelihood of multiple hazards. That's a big issue, right? For example, if you see the melange, we are always suffering from melange, right? Even these days, we don't have enough water. The case is that the intake, the diversion might have able to resist the stress that simple runoff or the flood that the event received, but it never talk about the sediment that the disaster that brought into it. That's a big question. So we have to deal with the the fragmented organization should be coordinated way. The data, the quality, that we have to have the very good protocol to maintain the quality of the design and the model. That's it for now.
Thank you, Dr. Devkota. Especially in the Himalayan region, after 2015, we have been doing research on how much sediment is being generated and eroded from source to the sink, because the mountain is still in relaxation time. If you look the Chichi earthquake in Taiwan, 99 earthquake, it took nearly 5 years, but the Himalaya sediment is still being generated after 2015, is still already to 11 years. So we need to really consider this sediment budget or bed load concentration while designing different flood scenarios or debris flow modeling. Thank you very much, Dr. Devkota, for highlighting this. So I'll open floor for the question, and please be very specific and to whom. So if you have any questions, I will take 2, 3, 4 questions, and then I'll request our panelists to record, note down, and then you can give answer very precisely. So the floor is open. Please raise your hand.
Hello, Namaste. I'm Shrestha from Nepal Electricity Authority. Thank you for this wonderful table talk. And I just realized that we have been discussing about the mega hazards, but we are suffering hazard every year repeatedly in the city. So I would like to know that. So we can doubt about the sustainability of road and city infrastructures being the dweller of the city as well. So how the engineer community should interfere with such daily life hazard and risk? Thank you.
Thank you.
The question is all to all of you.
Thank you. So any more questions? Oh, please,
Thank you for the nice presentation, sir. I've been working, this is Adhikari. I've been working on the risk financing sectors, but more interested on the natural catastrophe risks. So one of the major losses that we have seen in last 10 years is the loss due to the compounding effect on the flood, as well as the impact due to the debris flood on major hydropower projects. And my question is, are we looking on the risk engineering concepts which has been implemented globally nowadays? Are we really implementing a risk engineering concept from the design phase? Because until and unless we start working from the design phase, it will not propagate towards the during the up to the operational phase. So are we really working on these lines or not?
Thank you. Next question, if you have any, back there. Yes.
So my question is
Please spell your name.
Okay, my name is Chidis Koirala. I am currently working at Nepal Electricity Authority, and my concern is the reliability about the data that you were saying previously. Like normally in Nepal, we collect the data from the weather station that has been installed by EC Mode or DHM or some other institution, and we average out the data because to find out for a certain location and how much reliable is the data, because the data has also been not updated since several times, and how much reliable is that data that we could use for our research and this study. Thank you.
I'll take 2 more questions. One here. And the second row, I suppose. Yes.
Hello, Namaste. I'm Mahesh Nepali from Ministry of Infrastructure Development, previously Ministry of Water Supply. I'd like to request the panelists to share their experience from their international exposure. How are the data made available in international countries? The first question. Is it costly as in Nepal, or is it made free to the all people, whoever are in need, so they can take it? Secondly, once the research is done, it is continued. I have seen it's been continued in foreign countries. But here, the research is kind of scattered. And there are many people doing research every year, but we are not seeing the following researches or the research being done in following years, starting from the outputs of the previous researchers, because of which the research is being done. In one hand, it's not being institutionalized, and on the second hand, it is not showing us the path, or research can take us to a developed or new scenario as well. We are just doing research for a single term, and I just wonder how is it done in abroad countries, so that a couple of researches through several years can be linked together to come up with a big or solid output.
Thank you, thank you. One last question, if you have any. I don't see any hands, so okay. So can you give me the mic? Thank you very much. These are very interesting questions. So the questions are not directed to any panelist, but the beauty is that I have the second question also, so you can just summarize. So while you explain or share your experiences, what are the challenges that we are facing in the changing context, and based on the participant questions and expectation from you also. So what should we have to do? For example, how can the Nepal Engineers Association or the engineering communities with the the Asian Civil Engineering Coordinating Council, where Nepal Engineers Association is really leading TC39 and TC40. So how can we all work together? So this is the common question for you all three. And then, of course, Professor Pandey also. But you can take any of the questions that raised by the participants. So, Dr. Basnyat, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I'll also try to answer some of the questions. I think the urban flooding, that issue you mentioned, I mean, obviously, we need to change our design standards. The drainage system is not working. Of course, there are nature-based solutions, other things, but I think it's not working. Regarding risk financing, risk engineering, I mean, it's a very important thing. I would also like to sort of take risk, meaning resilience, as I mentioned. So it has to be, the system has to be adaptive. When you design a hydropower project, for example, maybe you have a fuse gate, maybe you have a space for an extra spillway. These are engineering and soft measures. I think that is important. Reliability of data, I mean, DHM has, now they've got more money, but they don't have, you need money for it, So I think they are reliable, but you have to use with caution. Data availability, I mean, I'm always impressed. Now, I can open up a USGS website, and I can get the data of each and every station for free, rainfall thing. So I think DHM should do that. They have automatic gazes thing, but after 2 weeks, they don't show it anymore. No, it should be free. So data has to be free. And also, like regarding your questions about general on what should be the immediate priority, I think for climate resilience, I just want to quote the National Adaptation Plan estimated $47.4 billion up to 2050, and so they said the government can just spend 1.5 billion, so $46 billion has to come from climate finance to meet the adaptation gap in Nepal. So that's about 2 billion every year. The NDC3, it estimated 94 billion up to 2035, 74 billion for mitigation and 20 billion for adaptation. Now my question is, we are very happy when GCF funds 20 million rupees to take care of one Clough glacier lake, which is very nice. But where is the other 101.98 billion? Where is that money from? So, I mean, I'm just saying there is this finance. So we have to really be careful about, funding. And the last point I would just like to make is, I just want to take an example of hydropower. Actually, recently I had an opportunity to serve in a committee to review hydropower license. No river, especially in Kosi and Gandaki, has any space left for a new hydropower project. It is from the beginning. If you look at Arun, Kimathanka, Upper Arun, Arun 4, Arun 3, Lower Arun, So, and some, you will not see any water in the dry season. Now just look at the cascading hazards, the compounding disasters, what will they do? So we are implementing projects without a proper plan. So, I mean, you cannot, you have to have a river basin plan, which I was lucky to be a part of developing. We have to have a power system development plan. Come on, we cannot, we need, I mean, we talk about, I mean, not just hazard, like, do we have a disaster risk management plan at a basin level? Does the Arun River has a plan where data is shared by one project to the other? DHM is supplying, NDRRMA is doing. So these are very key points that are important. And also lastly, to the young engineers, I would just like to say, you see, now advanced tool, AI, machine learning. I don't need a research assistant. I can do a Python code on anything by myself. Please use those tools. Use remote sensing, Google Earth Engine, but please don't forget the first principles. Before you really conclude the findings from it, make sure these are, the physical process is captured, even in hazard modeling and other things. And finally, to the ACECC, I think one area should be knowledge exchange between the partners. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Basnyat. Dr. Shrestha, please.
Well, Divas, you've covered all of it, I think, very nicely elaborated. But thank you for the questions. I think the first question that Ritu made was regarding more the urban floodings. So yes, you mentioned about the infrastructure, particularly the drains and the, but apart from that, what's also important is the public awareness and the education. So that hasn't come back here yet. So that is something that I would like to stress. That's the need to look into more informing the public, keeping them aware, and also that would directly minimize the adverse impacts that would then come from this such kind of urban flooding, which is of course definitely increasing. I just saw a video just a few days ago about this huge flooding in Maithika, Mandala area. I'm sure most of you did watch that. You know, it was water above up to my hip level, I think, and that's quite scary. With if you have an EV driving through that area, you wouldn't want to do that. Yeah, so awareness and also advanced forecasting and warning is essential, but again, very difficult at this stage when you're talking about more these kind of very short duration, high intensity rainfall that we are seeing more in the terms of increase. Yeah, the second question that was more in terms of looking at the global guidelines, I guess the implementation that you just mentioned, I think, Udayji. I think, yes, you talk about the need to look into and incorporating that right from the design phase, but I would like to even go one step backwards. That's it needs to be incorporated right from the planning. You know, right when you're looking at the plans, when you're doing the screening, you need to look at and see how you can really screen these kind of projects or kind of infrastructure, particularly looking at cascading risks. Yeah. So, and then Quirology, you mentioned more about the data, the quality of the data, what kind of data, and how it can be shared. You know, how reliable it is. You know, I definitely, there is room to question the reliability of data, but having said that, there are these mandated organizations like Department of Hydrology and Meteorology, which takes a lot of effort to make sure that the data is correct. You know, they are following World Meteorological Organization, WMO standards, so I would not doubt their data, but definitely it does need to be checked and try to look at in terms of some of the sets where there is a discontinuity of the data, and some of those that might also come as errors or outliers. That does need to be looked into. Yeah, but again, there are other data sets which kind of also help to fill in the data gaps from different research organizations. You mentioned ECMODE. Yeah, definitely ECMODE, we do provide such kind of data, and it's available in the RDS, that's the regional database system that ECMODE houses. If you have an opportunity, please visit that website and you'll find ample amount of data. Now, the fourth question that Maheshji asked was more looking into, he talked about, once the research is done, it just gets limited or whatever. So there needs to be a continuity. continuity, and institutionalization, definitely. So, and how are other countries doing it? Well, other countries, I mean, there are platforms that each countries have at the national level. For example, India also has their data that they put in, depending upon the policies. There are policies for data sharing that is there in place, which needs to be looked into in terms of the use and the availability of the data. But it is available in a platform that can be used within the country, and some data are across the country, but again, it's very limited. Now, what can we do? What can the ACECC can do? Well, of course, definitely knowledge sharing best practices. We have 18 member countries. That's a wonderful number of countries from where we can share best practices and learn from each other in terms of what works, what does not work, and how to move forward.
Thank you, madam. So most of the questions were answered. So Dr. Devkota, I think what needs to be done. So 1 or 2 minutes.
Yeah, no,
thank you.
Thank you. Many things has already addressed by Dr. Basnyat and Dr. Shrestha, but just want to highlight a little bit about the infrastructure that we have, urban infrastructure, and also explain about the urban flooding. A few days ago in Maitigar and some other part of the Kathmandu Valley. The infrastructures we design are based on the traditional way of doing design. Now the things have been changing, the climate is changing, the pattern of rainfall has already been changed. Now we have to design the infrastructure differently, that is non-stationary way. Hydrological data may not remains the same. Our design is basically depends on the past historical extreme data, right? But the extreme data is no more relevant in this changing environment because of climate change. The intensity of the rainfall has changed. That is definitely we have to revisit our design. That's a big issue. So what we do normally, the probable maximum flooding or probable maximum rain precipitation, we followed the stationary way of data processing. That's not the case. Now we have to revisit the design. Maybe we have to go redo the drainage system and the urban drainage system to address the current issue. The one thing. The other thing, one of the colleagues was talking about the quality of the data and also the requirement of research, what's happening, what other countries around the world is doing. Yes, research should be continuity. There should be continuity, right? But here in Nepal, what we have seen is when there is one project, we follow the project. It's not the requirement of the research. We follow the project, okay? If we have the project, we do some research, write some papers, that's it. Then it stops somewhere, right? We don't see any continuity on the research. That's the big issue. It's all about the resources that we have. There is universities, Professor Vishnu is here, maybe not very happy with me. The universities are responsible for that. And there should be some coordination with the government department and the universities. As a private sector, we are also always there in the middle. We are bridging sometimes the university and the government department. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So very last minute, 30 seconds.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I want to bring up this one very important issue. We are designing these resilient infrastructure. Resilient infrastructure for whom? It's for the people, right? Now, when you talk about the people, who are the people? Often we talk about it in very general. It's very important to have a gender responsive kind of an assessment and look at it in terms of making sure that whatever design we are doing is also very much, gender responsive in terms of, because disasters have no borders and it has differential vulnerabilities. It affects the worst in terms of people, in terms of women, in terms of children, in terms of elderly. So that also needs to be centrally kept in mind. So as engineers, we should and must also keep gender responsive, resilient infrastructure in mind. Thank you.
Thank you very much. GC approach should be there. So, Professor Pandey, so from your keynote speech, your thoughts, and then the discussion, the panel discussion, what's your final thoughts? 1 or 2 minutes.
I would like to add on 2 questions. One from Mr. Adhikari, he was asking about whether we are practicing risk engineering right from the design. In my knowledge, not to an adequate extent. I believe there should be the part of basic engineering course also, so that it helps to move us toward the resilient infrastructure design. Second, regarding second question from Mahesh Nirpane about the reinventing the wheel. Research is done by one agency, but other agency will start again from the scratch. The primary problem with this is we are not assigning a strategic institutional partnership with the universities. They are the live places where the people will continue to change, but still the institutional knowledge will be there. So if we start that kind of approach, that's what the global, North or the maybe entire world is doing. The government agencies or industries partner with the university, the knowledge will retain and continue to grow. That might help to address this kind of issue. And finally, about my final word, we know what needs to be done for resilient infrastructure. We also know how it needs to be done. What we need to do is also we know the limitation of the data and so on that we discuss about. But we cannot stop even if we don't have the high reliable data. We need to move forward within the limitation we have by clearly spelling the limitation. But what we need to do moving forward is we need to have champions who can work with the passion to take this forward, who can maybe translate this into reality, who want to leverage the opportunity for developing kind of demonstrated case studies of resilient infrastructure, which the entire world can refer to. So some of us, especially young minds, may wish to be those kind of a champion. Someone for maybe hydropower infrastructure, for the next 10 years I will champion for this so that I will develop the demonstrated cases. Someone for building infrastructure, someone for road and so on. I believe this session will create this kind of synergy and the kind of encouragement to the young minds to take this forward, because this is everyone's responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Pandey. What a vibrant session. I really want to go for hours and hours, but we didn't have time, and there is always limitation. By saying that, we have to work in data scarce region, especially Himalayas. Very difficult to gather data, but data is not the issue. How we process and how we utilize all the available data for engineering design to resilience for in terms of governance. So to have a better governance for engineering infrastructure resilience, we all have to work together from the different fields. So we have to go from silos to the combined effect, what we called from single hazard to multi-hazard. So for your information, Government of Nepal is finalizing multi-hazard risk assessment framework. Probably in 1 or 2 months, this will be there. So we all have to follow the guideline or the framework that government will be doing the publicly available things for this country. Very nicely explained by Dr. Basnyat, Dr. Shrestha, Dr. Devkota, and Professor Pandey with a vibrant discussion with our participants. I'm very happy to conclude by saying that let's unite and let's work together for the infrastructure resilience, for the sustainable risk reduction in this country. Thank you very much. I welcome Emendra.
Thank you to our moderator, sir, and all our distinguished panelists for an engaging, insightful, and highly enriching discussion. I believe today's session has provided valuable knowledge, practical perspective, and meaningful recommendation on strengthening resilience against cascading and compound risk. On behalf of Nepal Engineers Association and ACECC, I extend our sincere appreciation to all our speakers for sharing their expertise and experiences. Now we have a special closing remarks by a international speaker. At first, I would like to introduce her. Her name is Dr. Prasanthi Vidyashi. She is an assistant professor at the Faculty of Civil and Environmental Engineering of Institute Technology in Bandung. She took her PhD in civil engineering in the University of Tokyo, Japan. She is currently part of the Resilient Indonesian Slums envisaged the RISE team that had been granted a joint research fund by the Indonesian Ministry of Research and Technology, National Agency for Research and Innovation, and the Dutch Research Council. She also served as the elected chair of the Future Leaders Committee of the Asian Civil Engineering Coordinating Council between 2021 to 2022, and is an active contributor to the World Economic Forum. She is also co-chair of TC39, second Deputy Secretary General. Now I would like to request her to kindly provide her remarks. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I'm very grateful to be able to be here. Reintroducing myself, my name is Basanta Sali, and I am the co-chair of the ACECC Technical 39 Committee on Cascading and Compound Risk Assessment for Resilient Engineering. And I also represent here the Indonesian Society of Civil and Structural Engineers, or HAKI we call it. And I am also currently the second Deputy Secretary General of the Asian Civil Engineering Coordinating Council, or ASI. So first of all, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to our keynote speakers, our moderator, all our distinguished panelists. Actually, I've been listening in for the whole hour, and I learned so much about the conditions that is currently happening in Nepal. I was also very impressed by all of the questions that was raised during the discussion. And I realized actually during this session that there was maybe no single answer to the question of how we should address cascading and compound risk. Instead, what I understood from today's discussion is that we have to have a broader realization that building resilience requires us to actually rethink not only our engineering tools, but also the way we work together. So I will try to summarize it into 2 points. The first message that particularly resonated with me was the discussion actually about data and governance. So one of our speakers emphasized the importance of moving towards more open data and greater data sharing, because we often hear that maybe people say that there is no data, but perhaps today this is no longer the biggest challenge. In many cases, the data already exists. It's simply separated, maybe across institutions, maybe it's difficult to access, or not shared in ways that allow others to use it. But at the same time, another speaker reminded us that perhaps the larger obstacle is fragmented governance. And I empathize with this because actually we in Indonesia share the same problems. Because maybe different organizations have different responsibilities, different priorities, and also different systems, making coordination difficult precisely when coordinated action is actually most needed. So I don't believe, rather they are two sides of the same challenge. So better data, of course, without effective governance will not necessarily lead to better decision. So we need stronger governance, and also stronger governance without accessible and trusted information cannot effectively manage cascading and compound risk. So we need both. And the second important message from today's discussion is the growing importance of impact-based forecasting. Traditionally, maybe we engineers and scientists have focused on forecasting hazards, how much rainfall we expect, maybe how high floodwaters may rise, or how strong an earthquake might be. But increasingly, especially in the future, the question we need to answer will be different. We have to think about what will this hazard actually do? What will be affected? Which infrastructure systems are most vulnerable? How will failures cascade through transportation, energy, water supply, communication, healthcare, and maybe our communities? This shift from forecasting just the hazard itself to actually forecasting the impact of the hazard will transform information into decisions that hopefully can protect lives. But I was also quite impacted by one of the audience question today, which is how do other countries transform the many data sets and research projects produced every year into something that creates maybe some real impact. As a researcher myself, this question feels very familiar because every year we universities produce valuable research, we collect new data sets, develop new models, and publish new findings, yet most of the time, all of this sometimes is fragmented. So we have to remember that research doesn't end with publication, but while practitioners continue to face challenges. So what I believe is important moving forward is to go through this pentahelix approach, where we have to bring together academia, government, industry, communities, and even the media so that we can discuss all of the findings that we got from the data set into actually creating a larger impact. So, but perhaps we can start by building small nexuses, like small communities, small trusted collaborations between researchers and maybe people who actually need the knowledge. And we can work closely from the university level, let's say, with the local government, or with from engineering. Engineers can also collaborate with infrastructure operators so that we can bring our ideas forward to the people who need it the most. This might seem very small and maybe it will be very slow and tedious, but I believe that meaningful collaboration rarely begins at a very national scale. Sometimes it has to begin from the people who decide to work together, solve one problem together, and build trust together. So over time, I hope that maybe all of these small collaborations can grow into a stronger ecosystem where research no longer just ends with publication, but continues into implementation in real societal work. So this is where this connects with ACECC. I believe today's discussion gives us a clear direction of what we can do together. As a regional community here in ACECC, we can continue strengthening collaboration across our member economies. We can facilitate knowledge sharing, obviously, encourage more open and interoperable data where appropriate data sets can be shared. We can also strengthen professional capacity and promote engineering approaches beyond just one single hazard for achieving resilience. But most importantly, we can continue building bridges because bridges between disciplines, between institutions, between countries. Because the one thing that I learned by being in the ACECC community is that disasters do not recognize institutional boundaries. Disaster does not recognize disciplinary boundaries. It does also not respect national boundaries. So this means that our collaboration should not be bounded by all of this. Perhaps the common message I can take away from today is that resilience begins not only with stronger infrastructure, but with stronger collaboration, better data, better governance, better partnership, and ultimately, hopefully, to better decisions. So I sincerely hope today's session is not the end of the conversation. I am expecting more in the coming months and years. And again, finally, on behalf of ACECC TC39, TC40, and Haki and our organizing partners, I would like to once again thank everyone for this wonderful, wonderful discussion and hope that we will talk with you again maybe in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your inspiring remarks and valuable reflections. Your words have provided an excellent conclusion for today's technical session. So now, as a token of appreciation for the valuable contribution made by our distinguished speakers, moderators, and guests, we would like to present a small token of love. For that, I would like to request Mr. Suman Thapa, sir, Treasurer of Nepal Engineers Association, to kindly come forward and present the token of appreciation. And for the facilitation part, I would like to request Naveen Joshi, any Bagmati province member. And now I would like to request, I would like to request Professor Vishnu Prasad Pandey to kindly receive token of love. And I would also like to request Madandai for taking the photograph as well. Now I would like to request Dr. Basanta Raj Adhikari, sir. Now I would like to request Dr. Divas Bahadur Basnyat, sir. Now I would like to request Dr. Mandira Singh Shrestha, ma'am. Please kindly clap for her. Now I would like to request Dr. Sanjaya Devkota, sir, to kindly receive. And now I would like to request Engineer Suraj Gautam sir to kindly receive the token of appreciation.